Okay, so we brought ourselves through 300 years of history pretty quickly there in the last 2 weeks. And what we're going to do now as we start our next book, which will be strung out a little bit, and I hope that doesn't make you feel too discombobulated. But as we start Krakatoa here, what we're doing is we're looking at how all of the stuff that we saw or was referenced in longitude is going to pave the way for this European imperialism that is really, truly, and literally going to cover the globe. And the reason that we're looking at this through Krakatoa is it's an interesting story, of course, but it does the same thing that longitude did in a different way. It's telling you about this event, the eruption, the massive eruption of this one volcano in Southeast Asia, but it's going to do so through a number of different lenses, and those lenses are going to take us to different kind of stations in history. So we're riding the train, and we're going to kind of pass by some stations and see what we see. These first, the prelude to the second chapter, we're going to be specifically looking at imperialism. And just to kind of introduce this book, he does a great job in the prelude of telling you why maybe I picked this book, but we're looking at the scientific revolution and the increasing scientific advance of humanity, and how that is going to have a global impact. We talked about cultural diffusion last week, and you're going to see that here so vividly as both before the eruption and then definitely after, as the communications technology spreads the news of what could be called the first true global event to everybody through all of the cables that have been laid. And we're going to see some religious issues arise after the eruption. But I like it because it's a kind of turning point in history here at the very end of the 19th century. So we're going to see kind of everything as it was before and then see what comes after. But what we're looking for specifically in this first little part of the book is evidence of imperialism. So imperialism is, and I'll let you kind of research this on your own and read this as we go out, but it really is what shapes the 1800s and the early 1900s, and people could say even the late 1900s, because as so many nations struggle to come out from imperialism, we have a new kind of what we call post-colonialism that sweeps through the globe. But what we're looking at is the impact of that imperialism, and you can see it here in the language map of the Americas. We have crazy languages here, and what you see when you look at the language map is really a map of the effective imperial control that came in through the age of imperialism. And really understanding why people speak what they speak means that you understand what people took over what areas and what peoples as we move through history. Of course, most of imperialism was motivated by a drive for more resources and more stuff. And so you're going to see indigenous populations put to work gathering stuff, whether it's rubber in the Congo, various spices throughout other regions, minerals in Africa, as we'll see next week. Next week we will look at Africa specifically, but there is this sense that white Europeans feel that they have dominion to take over other places, and that is an attitude that pervades all else. So you're going to see that as we move through Krakatoa. You're going to see them try to bring and really think that they're doing the right thing in bringing European style languages, dress, education, culture to these far off places, and really be feeling like they're doing a service to these indigenous populations. And as we're going to talk about in our forums, in some ways those were services and those were betterments that they brought, but what did we lose when those things came at the same way? We're also going to see that European technology as it comes really does change the face of warfare, really means that indigenous populations, you could say, why didn't they rise up? Well, they did, but they really don't have a chance when they're working against this kind of technology, because I can mow you down literally from the hilltop, and if you've only got spears or swords or wooden clubs, you really don't have a chance here. The other thing that imperialism is going to mean is that for a while there, a lot of white people aren't going to be able to get to where they can get to. But because quinine is found in Latin America, it means white people can start to go to different places. We're also going to see them bring their transportation, whether that's railway, steamship, into these continents so that they can get stuff out. And that again is going to split up continents in new ways. What we see, and we're going to need to follow this theme through history, but we see here is a real sense of nationalism, in that I can do what is best for my country even if it hurts your country. And especially when we go to Africa next week, you're going to see almost a McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's type situation where England's going to go, well, if France is going down there, we got to get down there. And Germany's going to say, if England and France are going down, we got to get down there because we can't let them dominate one corner of the globe. We have to be where they are. And what you're going to see, and I think somebody's mentioned it before, is some of these places that we go, the people don't have a sense of nationalism because it wasn't how they operated. But this growing sense of nationalism will start to pervade the globe, and of course it's what brings us almost directly into World War I and again into World War II. And what I do want you to see, and you'll see this a little bit in Krakatoa definitely, is this sense of paternalism, in that as we come in and we take over your economic systems, your cultural systems, your social systems, we also take over all aspects of life because you're really not ready to do it yourselves. You're not advanced enough. You're not civilized enough. There's a word we'll look at next week called social Darwinism. And this is a general term that we call paternalism. We need to take care of these people. That's why we're down here in Indonesia. That's why we're going to go down into sub-Saharan Africa. And you'll see that this is very much what pervades a lot of why they do what they do. So what we're going to do is we're going to see this develop here in the beginning of Krakatoa. We're going to take a break and then go look specifically at Africa next week. And then we'll come back out, look at this develop through Krakatoa, and look at some of the technological pieces that complement that moving forward. And what will then happen is Krakatoa will dump us at World War I. So we'll kind of follow this progression, this global progression, and then we'll get dumped off right in advance of World War I. But hopefully you'll have a good understanding of the global landscape during the close of the 1800s and the beginning of the 1900s after all of this. All right, thank you so much for listening to this long babble.